Thank you, Sanskriti, for being the part of the podcast. Uh, so we should start with the topic of IELTS. A lot of students have confusion over what it means. Could you throw
Mhm.
some light on it?
Okay. So IELTS basically is a language proficiency test that is taken by most of the students who want to either pursue their studies abroad or who want to, obtain a PR or want to move to another country for any other purposes. Uh, it is conducted by the British Council, IDP, IELTS, Australia, and Cambridge. And this organization was established way back in 1989. So more than anything, I think being a part of IELTS gives you, more of an authentication. It gives you a feeling of being very, proud of yourself if you're able to qualify it with a good band score. And yeah, that is what IELTS is basically about. So it's not just about English as such,
Right?
but it is also about how well versed you are with the language and how well you can understand the critical aspects of it. So
Right.
that is that.
So is IELTS only required for countries that speak English, or is it an eligibility criteria for all the countries?
See, that's like, since it's an English proficiency test, it is mostly required by countries wherein English is spoken. Say, for example, UK, US, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. So these are the countries where English is the first language and the main language. So if you want to pursue your studies there, or if you want to be a part of that country with respect to anything, you're going to have to appear for this exam and qualify with a good score.
Right. Could you walk us through the format of the test?
Yes, sure. So IELTS has a pretty simple format. There are intricacies well within. There are four modules to begin with. The first one is called the reading module. Then there's the writing module. Then there is listening, and then there is speaking. Each of these modules have a different set of questions. They have different number of questions, and they have different amount of time that they give you for you to attempt the questions. So for example, reading has 40 questions, and it'll take you around 60 minutes to answer those questions.
Right.
Writing, there are basically two tasks in writing, the first task and the second task. Uh, the second task is common between the general IELTS exam and the academic, but the first task is different when it comes to general and academic.
Mhm.
But the time duration remains same, which is 60 minutes. Then there is listening, which has 40 questions again, and you'll be given around 30 minutes and then 10 minutes more to just inscribe your answers on the answer sheet. So that's like 40 minutes. So
Right.
all in all, you can attempt your paper in, like, 60, 60, 45 minutes of extra. Let's say, for example, 2 hours and 40 or 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Right.
That's the entire duration. Then there is a speaking module as well.
Mhm.
But the speaking module is such that it cannot be conducted on the same day. So the
Right.
speaking module is to be held as per your preference. So, you can either conduct the speaking module on the same day, but a different time slot, or you can appear for it some other day whenever you're comfortable.
Right. Could you walk us through what happens during the speaking part of the test? Because that's what scares most of the students.
No, it's not difficult. I think speaking module is the easiest of them all
Mhm.
because English is a pretty simple language. We tend to use it so often, and we there are so many words that we don't even know in our mother tongue that we tend to use in English. So speaking isn't difficult to begin with, and the duration in the speaking module is somewhere around 11 to 14 minutes.
Mhm.
There are three parts that you have to cater to. The first one is called introduction interview, that will last for 4 to 5 minutes. The second one is a cue cards part, which will last for 2 to 3 minutes. And the last one is called a discussion part, which lasts for 5 to 7 minutes. Now, what happens is that when you walk into the room and you have an examiner sitting right in front of you, you tend to introduce yourself. Hi, I'm this, and that person is that. You just get comfortable. You have a conducive environment around you. So that happens to in your span of 4 to 5 minutes. Once
Right.
you're done with that, there'll be a second round wherein you will be required to pick up a cue card that will be having certain kind of a topic, a
Mhm.
question or something with few bulleted points. You will be given 1 minute. You will be handed over a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper. You have to very quickly jot down whatever points come to your mind when you are seeing
Hmm.
the topic. Once you're done with that, now you need to consolidate all of those points and start speaking. The most important thing is that you do not feel nervous when you speak. Just speak to the other person as you would speak to your friend, your colleague. I mean, don't be informal, but just
Right.
try to speak with utmost zeal. That's
Hmm.
all. And just be comfortable when you're doing so, because if you are not comfortable, if you're anxious, you will tend to stutter, and if you do that, it will not get you a good band score. So
How many
once you're done with
attempts? Yeah, continue, please.
no, please.
How many attempts can you give for IELTS?
There is no upper capping for how
Right.
many attempts you can give. You can give as many attempts as you want. But as a trainer, I feel, and the number of people that I have dealt with, students tend to perform the best in their first attempt. I mean,
Okay.
of course, with positive training
Right.
and with good training, they tend to perform best because it's like a clean slate. They do not know what is going to come up, and
Mhm.
they answer everything in a very flamboyant manner, and the results are positive. Because then there are people who sort of tend to get very disheartened if they do not get the required band in the first attempt, and then they're
Right.
very hesitant to go for the second attempt, even
Right.
more hesitant to go for the third attempt. So in my suggestion, I would say that prepare well. Take
Mhm.
Everybody knows what kind of capabilities and abilities one has. So, prepare according to your capabilities, and thereafter you can just appear and give your best in the first shot. And I'm sure you will score very well.
Okay. What is the minimum requirement of band score that you would suggest that if the person gets at the first attempt, that it's not suitable for them to give the second attempt?
Okay, so this is very subjective, but
Yes.
so there is no particular band score that is, good or that is bad. It's just that every university tends to offer a different set of curriculum. Every university tends to accept different band scores. So, as there are rankings of the universities all across the globe, there will be universities like Oxford and Harvard and Yale and University of Toronto and all these, good names, the ones that will be only taking students, say, who have a score of 9 band. And then there are universities that would settle for 8 band. Then there are universities that will settle for 7 band. And then there are universities that will settle for no band. So you can't really say what exactly is the band which is good or bad.
Hmm.
You just have to be very sure of what you're attempting, and you need to give your best, because when you do that, you will be opening several aspects for yourself. Because if you, for example, score a 9 band, you know that you will be able to get Oxford, Harvard, Yale, Toronto, Sydney, Melbourne, even a lot of other universities, whatever you feel like. But if you
Right.
only score 6, you do not have those options.
Okay.
So that
Is
is that.
scoring a good band score only required for the eligibility criteria in terms of university, or can it also provide you with scholarship?
Of course, it provides you with scholarship. There are a lot of things that are associated with scoring a good band in IELTS, which is why we are very consistent, when we tell people that, what, you need to study well, you need to be very devoted for that 1 hour. Even if you're dedicating 1 hour in a day, please be sure that you are extremely focused, because your IELTS score determine a lot of other things. If it's not academic, even if it's general PR, and you're seeking a job in some other country, it only gives out a good picture of you and a good image of you to the employer. If he or she sees that, okay, this person is coming to me from this country and has scored a band of, say, 9.5, just like very rare, but yeah, has scored 9.5. So it gives them an idea of, oh, good. So we might as well use this person, and we might as well put this person on the front end, because he can take care of so and so things, because he's so well versed with the language.
Mhm.
Then when it comes to academic, it largely determines the kind of, first of all, the image that you will hold in the university's site. And then apart
Yes.
from that, whether or not you're eligible for certain kinds of scholarships. Now, this is again very subjective. Every university has a different kind of scholarship, whether or not they offer that to you, because it is not just based on IELTS score, it is also based on your SOPs and LORs, and how you appeared for their exams, if you have appeared for GMAT, GRE, and all those things.
Right.
But yes, paying good attention to IELTS and scoring good in IELTS is always very beneficial.
Is there a correlation between having good marks in your 12th class or being proficient in English and having good marks in IELTS, or should you not take it for granted?
Sorry, I couldn't get your question.
Okay, basically, like if you're proficient in English, should you take IELTS for granted or should you prepare for it nonetheless?
Under no circumstances I would suggest that you should take any exam for granted. The only reason being is that since school, I have been very fond of English as a language, but being fond of a particular language, knowing that language well, only allows you to make certain assumptions more easily. It allows you to understand certain aspects more clearly. That does not mean that you will ace everything without studying, without paying attention, without making efforts. It's as simple as that. So IELTS, as I mentioned earlier, is not just a test about English, but it is also about your critical analysis. So
Right,
IELTS is not just about how you speak English or how you understand English. It is also about whether or not you can read between the lines. Whether or not, if you are put in a confusing situation, you can pick the right answer.
right.
It is also about time management, apart from everything else. So you shouldn't take it for granted. Also, because of another reason that it is not a very inexpensive exam. It costs a lot.
How much does it
So
cost roughly?
it costs something between 14,000 to 15,000
That's a
for
lot.
every attempt. It costs that much.
Right,
So you need to be sure that when you are attempting IELTS, you prepare for it really well, and that's how.
right. If you talk about the difference between academic and general,
Okay.
what is it?
So yeah, so academic in general, as the name suggests, when you appear for academic IELTS, it's when you want to study or pursue your studies abroad. General is when you are going for any other general purpose. What happens in the reading module is, in the academic version of the reading module, you will have excerpts and you will have articles which are general in nature, which are generic in nature, something
Right,
easy to understand.
right, right.
When you go for academic, you
Mhm.
will be given excerpts that will not be so generic in nature. It will be a little more technical. Say, for example, if you're going for general, they'll talk about relationships, your life, environment as such. But when you're going for academic, they will probably talk to you about the space missions. They will talk to you about various government programs, schemes, all these things that require you to use your brain apart from being proficient in English, as I've said. So
Right,
that is what happens in the reading module. When
right,
it comes to the writing module, as I mentioned, there are two tasks. The second task is same in both of them, but what happens in the first task is that in the general portion, you will be required to attempt letter writing. Letter writing could be of three categories. It can be formal, informal, or semi-formal. When you're going for academic, you will be required to go for report writing. Report writing is of several types. Six of them are main. I would just name a few of them: bar graph, line graph, pie charts, maps, diagrams, tables,
right.
all these things. So this is the difference that you have in
Mhm.
writing. Then when you move on to listening, there is no difference. When you move on to speaking, there is no difference. So the only difference that you have in general and academic is with respect to your reading and writing modules.
Is there also a difference in cost between the two?
No.
Yeah,
No,
right.
it's the same.
So suppose I want to give my IELTS exam. So what steps do I have to take to register for it?
As I mentioned, that there are two organizations that conduct IELTS.
Right.
You need to register yourself. You need to fill out form. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to go to their website. You have to fill out a form. You need to block a date, a particular date that you want to
Right.
appear for. You have to pay the required fees. You have to find out the test center, and you have to go appear for it.
Right.
It's like a common pattern, just as you follow a pattern when you go for any other competitive exam or when you appear for your college exams as such. It's the
Mhm.
same.
Could you tell the minimum requirement of passing for both academic and general?
Well, like I said, that's subjective, but for me, I think 7 should be the minimum a person should be
Okay.
scoring, because 7, I think, with a score of 7, you still have room for improvement. And with a little effort, you can reach 8. But if
Right.
you're below 7, it'll take you a lot of efforts even to reach 7.
Hmm.
So you're able to score a 7, you still have few opportunities. But below 7, a lot of opportunities would cease to exist, and I
Right.
mean no disrespect here.
Right. Hmm.
So just you know just score as much as you can. That's all. And I've also observed that in IELTS, it is easy to score so long as you keep your brain open, so long as you're ready to understand, and if you are not applying your own brain into it. You just need to follow the instructions very carefully and you will score. That's all.
Right.
And adhere to the instructions at all costs.
That's important. I remember when I gave my IELTS exam, the listening part, I took it for granted. That podcast तो लेता हूँ, Netflix की series देखता हूँ, तो समझ आ जाएगा. But what's up with all the accents?
Accents. Okay, so there are 5 major kinds of accents that you will come
Uh-huh.
across. The first one is the British accent, then there is American, then there is Canadian, and there is Australian, and then there is New Zealand. So these are 5 accents that you need to be very, very well versed with, because any of them can appear. And somehow, even I thought when I was, understanding the entire procedure of IELTS, the format of IELTS, I thought, okay, fine, reading, and I take it. This I'll prepare. Listening is going to be easy. Big
Right.
issue. And then when I started exercising, I was like, okay. What we don't realize is that most of us have this tendency of having our subtitles switched on when we see any
Right.
series.
Right. Right.
So unknowingly, even if we're not registering what they're saying, we are reading things so quickly that we are still able to understand what they're saying. And
Yes.
also, even if we are not reading the subtitles, there is still a video. We can still lip read whatever they are saying.
Oh.
But that is not the case when it comes to IELTS. You're just listening. So, you're going to be sitting with earplugs on, your headphone, and you're going to be like, okay, okay, okay. And there will be a moment of distraction because there will be distractors. This is what is, there in the listening module. There will be
Mhm.
distractors. There are going to be sounds and noise from the street, from the cars, from horns, this and that, XYZ. So a moment of distraction here, and you will lose on to 2-3 points, literally. So it is different when it comes to, just watching a series or a movie that you like and when appearing for
Right.
these. Because of course, when you're watching a series and a movie, you have chosen it. Here, the content is not chosen. They will give
Right.
you anything.
Hmm. And what is the importance of doing rough work?
Oh, the importance of rough work. Okay, this is my favorite part. What happens in the rough work is, so you're required to do a rough work in both the reading and the writing module. The writing module more than the reading module. So you will be given 40 minutes for
Mhm.
task 2 in the reading, sorry, in the writing module, and 20
Mhm.
minutes in the task 1.
Right.
Not so much in task 1, but in task 2, as you are given with 40 minutes, I recommend that you take the first 15 minutes to just sit and quietly analyze the question. Leave your pen paper aside. Sit and read and reread the question several times until the time that you are sure that you have understood the nuances very clearly. If it says you have to write 250 words, you will write 250 words and not 249. 249 will also not be sufficient. You may just think, acha, ek word kam hai. Nahin. For the examiner, it's not one word. For the examiner, it is about
All or
you
nothing.
not following the instruction.
Right.
And
Right.
you keep your marks in task achievement.
Right.
There goes your band score. Okay, so
Right.
there are like very tiny things that you need to take care
Mhm.
of. So in the first 15 minutes, you will sit and read and analyze the question. Then you will frame your points. Whatever comes to your mind, pick up your pen and pick up your question paper, not your answer sheet, and jot down whatever you think is relevant, whatever points you want to incorporate in your essay. Once you are done writing all of those things, sit and analyze, think whatever points are final, because that's your rough work. So if you've come up with 10 points, only 3 or 4 of them will be suitable enough to be incorporated in the essay. Now you need to start eliminating things. So
Right.
that elimination will also take time. But trust me, if you go through this process for like 15 minutes, it'll be easy for you to write anything, because if you have bulleted points and sub points available to you at your disposal, it'll take you a maximum of 20 minutes just to connect them with nouns, pronouns, conjunctions, and connectors, not more than that, because you've already framed your points. You
Right.
have done the thinking part very well. So always make sure that you utilize 15 minutes, because if you do not utilize those 15 minutes, I'll tell you the repercussions. If you write as you think, a lot of thoughts will be flowing into your mind when you're writing. First of all, you will not be given an extra period of time to make changes if you think that so and so point wasn't important and I should strike it off. Second of all, striking off and applying whitener only makes the appearance very shabby, right? Third of all, it will create a sense of panic, because you are losing on to time and you have not written anything substantial as yet. So all in all, it will become very disastrous if you do not go for rough work. So my recommendation, always go for rough work. Never
Right.
skip it.
Right. And what is the difference? Like, we know the difference, but like, should we go for computer based or written based?
There are pros and cons for both of them. If
Mm-hmm.
I explain to you, so okay, so in the speaking module, there is pretty much no computer and no paper based.
Right.
In the listening module, what happens is, if you're going for the CBT, that's computer based test, you will listen to the audio and simultaneously there will be questions. So you have to keep listening to the audio, you have to keep marking your answers.
Okay.
In PBT, what happens is that when you have listened to the audio, you have taken down whatever notes. So, you've written small words, like Tom, him, Northwest, all these
Right.
words, you've just inscribed few ideas. Then what you're supposed to do is, you will be given 10 minutes, as I mentioned, 10 extra minutes to inscribe those answers on the answer sheet.
Okay.
This is what happens in the paper based. Then in the writing module, there are certain pros and cons. The pros are that, someone who's not a very good typist and who does not have a very good speed but can write really quickly will be able to, write the essay in a proper
Mhm.
manner, will not lose on to time. Then, if you want to highlight certain things, you can just immediately highlight whatever you feel like, tuck, 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 done it, and you can just go for it. But there are certain cons attached to it. Now, when you're writing, you're not continuously counting the number of words that you've written. So once you're done writing, you will have to literally sit and count every word. That will,
Right.
take some amount of time, because you will not be given, as I said, some extra time to just count your words. That won't happen. In the CBT, what will happen is, the computer will already be counting your words. So you have no problem there. It's going to
Right.
tell you, okay, so you're 190 words. So you have to go for 60 words more that way. Then there is another con of computer based test, is that the screen gets locked. So immediately as the time gets over, your screen will get locked. So there are no chances of any last minute changes as such. So you have to be very mindful when you're choosing the mode of examination that you want to appear for. Likewise, when you go to the reading portion, the reading module, it's easier for us to highlight when we have a pen or a pencil in our hand. So if I feel like, I will encircle the nouns, I will underline the keywords, and if there are any numbers, say for example 63, 46, anything, whether it's in the word form or if it's in the numeric form, I will
Mhm.
just create brackets around. But you do not have the liberty to do that when you are appearing via a computer based mode. Why?
Right.
Because you will only have one cursor, and if you try to highlight, it's only going to highlight in a one particular
Mhm.
color. Okay.
So we were talking about highlighting in written
Yes.
examination. Yeah.
Yes. So it is much easier for us to highlight, since we've been more accustomed to using
Right. Right.
pencil, papers, and pens. So that is what. So when you appear for the CBT format, you just have your cursor, and you will probably not even have the access to several colors. So it's
Right.
like, if you want to differentiate nouns and you want to differentiate the numbers or keywords, you'll not be able to do that, because you will just be highlighting them in, say, one color. Like if it's yellow, it's yellow throughout. If it's green, it's green
Right.
throughout.
Right.
That's what.
Right.
But then yes, the kinds of questions that are given to you in CBT and PBT are not different. So the only difference is the mode of conducting the exam. So it is completely up to the student, whatever method he or she wants to resort to.
Does handwriting matter?
Handwriting matters a lot. So that is one thing which is not a problem when you're going for CBT, because
Right.
then of course you're just typing.
Of course. Yeah.
But if you have a pathetic handwriting, go for CBT, even with respect to your reading module, because if your handwriting is illegible at any point of time, I don't think the examiner will want to invest a lot of time trying to understand or to analyze. Because just imagine the workload, the number of students that appear for IELTS every year, every month, in fact, for that matter.
Mhm.
So, also, if the examiner is trying to understand your language, he or she may construe it differently.
Right.
You may have written something else, he may understand something else, and
Yeah.
the entire meaning of it would change. So that
Right.
shouldn't be the case,
Right.
because then
Right.
you will just lose marks for no reason.
Right. And
Yeah.
what are the materials that I can bring into the examination hall?
You are supposed to leave everything outside apart from your original ID card that you're supposed to carry. Your pencil, sharpener, eraser, pen, water bottle.
Mhm.
That's all. Anything and everything that allows you to cheat is to be kept outside. No mobile phones, even if it is switched off, you can't bring it. No digital watches, no calculators. Of course, like there is no reason why you should carry a calculator to the IELTS exam, but even so, no
Mhm.
electronic devices are required.
Right.
So you just have to bring whatever is of completely no use to you, but of some use to them. So that's all.
Okay. Last question I want to ask you is how much time should one block for the preparation of IELTS examination?
This also, in my opinion, is a subjective
Right.
question, because every person, I believe, has a different set of capacity and a different set of ability. So some people tend to grasp things very quickly, some people tend to take a little more time. So it depends from person to person, but I would still suggest that whether or not you are going for a preparation with a trainer, like through a proper
Mhm.
mode or on your own, at least dedicate 2 months. Why? Because in the first few days, you will just be getting a hang of the format of
Right.
the
Right.
exam, right? You will be confused in the very few days. For 1 week you'll be confused. Acha, so reading has these many questions. Acha, reading mein ye bhi hai, ye bhi hai, ye bhi hai. There are going to be a lot of things. You're going to have matching type questions, you're going to have fill in the blanks, you're going to have MCQs, you're going to have summary completion, you're going to have true false not given. So there are
Right.
so many categories. So it's practically not possible for a person to immediately just like read and be like, okay, I'm done.
It's
ऐसा
overwhelming.
नहीं है. Yeah, it's overwhelming, right?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
you just have to. I would suggest, if I have a student, I always tell them, you need to dedicate 2 months to IELTS, and you need to give me 2 months to prepare you, because
Mhm.
I have one tendency that I will not allow my student, legit, I will not allow, and I will not let him or her bleed in the battle unless he or she has sweat enough in practice. I'll not
Right.
let you appear for it.
Right.
So the only thing is that you're not required to devote a lot of time, but
Mhm.
if you're devoting 1 hour a day, please make sure that you devote it with utmost dedication. In
Right.
that 1 hour, forget about everything else. Just listen to your instructor. Just try to understand what he or she is saying, and you will make it through. I know it for a. So 2 months, and I assure that you will score a band above 8, and you know the benefits of scoring above 8. So that's all.
I think I'll stop it here. It was very wonderful talking to you.
Thank you, Akash. Likewise.